Hey everybody, I'm Bryan Grossman, Editor-in-Chief of the Colorado Springs Independent. This is the Indy 15, the show that recaps all you need to know in the news. Our guest in studio today is local musician Jeremiah Walter. We also have managing editor Helen Lewis in the house, as well as reporter and podcast director extraordinaire Nick Raven. Welcome everybody to the Indy 15.
Thank you.
So Jeremiah, talk about, I guess start from the beginning. What do you do around here when it comes to music?
So I am a multi-instrumentalist that plays almost anything. None of them extremely well, but I have about 80 different types of instruments.
Oh, wow.
In the past couple of years. It was actually kind of when the pandemic hit and I had a little bit more spending money because I couldn't go out. I started collecting instruments. So, and I write songs on the instruments. But I've been in various bands over the years. Including the Rogue Spirits with my buddy Travis Duncan, who's also in a band called Spur. But going way back to, I was in a heavy metal band called Intake way back in the day that like opened for Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been doing it probably for about 25 years, singing or playing instruments in bands.
Okay. Are you from the Springs?
I was born at Memorial Hospital.
Oh, okay.
But then when I was, 6 months old, moved out to Peyton, Colorado, which is about 30 miles east or so of the Springs, and then when I was 18, moved back to the big city.
Yeah, okay. And you said you own 80 instruments, is that right?
Yeah, 80 different types of instruments. So like, I've got a bunch of harmonicas, for example, but I just count that as one, basically.
How many instruments did you have before COVID?
I still had quite a few, but that's when I really went, like, especially collecting from around the world. So I probably had 30 or so, if I had to guess. I didn't necessarily count at the time, but
so more than doubled your collection during the pandemic. Okay.
Absolutely. Lots of free time to scroll through eBay, and Etsy actually surprisingly has a lot of instruments.
So what was the first instrument you ever picked up?
In Peyton, I played trombone for a while, but then that kind of petered out, and then I kind of fiddled on bass and guitar and stuff over the years, but I was mainly just a vocalist. And about a decade ago, a coworker of mine lent me a baritone ukulele. So it's not like a tiny little ukulele. It's a little bit bigger, tuned like a guitar. And I just kind of took to it and realized, I don't have to wait for all these other musicians to have the music for me to add lyrics to. I can just bang out my own chords and then have kind of grown from there as an instrumentalist and songwriter.
Okay. Helen, do you play any instruments?
I used to play the piano.
Oh, yeah?
My parents kindly gave me lessons for years and years, and it was a terrible waste.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kindly gave you is a nice way to say forced you?
Well, there was no negotiating, but it was useful for other things.
Like what? Storing things? Squirrel home? And...
It turns out if you can read music, you can learn shorthand easier.
Really?
And when I started in News Limited, you had to get 120 words a minute in shorthand to graduate into being a real journalist. So
and
that
music
was handy.
helped you with that?
Apparently, your brain works the same way with that kind of thing. Okay. Well, I want to know, what are your top 5 strangest instruments?
Top 5 strangest
Yes, ones that we would be like, what is that?
So one of my favorites, and is really unique looking, is a Taisho Goto, which is from Japan. And you strum strings that are all kind of tuned to the same note, but then there are typewriter keys, basically, that you press to sort of fret and create different notes. And it was developed by this guy whose name I can't recall off the top of my head, but he was in Japan, and I think this is the 19-teens. And he got a scholarship to travel Europe and the United States to learn about musical instruments, and had never seen a typewriter before because of the Japanese, their character system. Typewriters weren't around then. They have figured it out. And he saw that and was like, I could utilize that to make an instrument. So that was a long answer for one. So we'll fill the rest of the podcast with the others. But that one's pretty neat. I have... it's called a Khen, Khaen, which is from the Isan region of Thailand, which is like northern Thailand and also Laos. Mm. And it's like this reed instrument that you blow into, and it has these like big, long bamboo tubes, and you kind of press buttons, and it's got like a really cool, unique sound. There's one called a valija from Madagascar, which is, again, bamboo. It's a big thing at bamboo, but it's called a tube zither, and it has strings all the way around it that are each tuned differently, and you can play them all. I know that's not 5, but I could go up to.
You have to do 5.
I have to do 5. I lost count. I don't know what that was. 3?
It was a solid 3. Yeah,
and I have a piano.
Oh.
It's very
odd.
weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Super strange.
Helen might need some lessons, a refresher coming up. So the reason you ended up on our radar is because you're doing something a little unusual. You want to talk about that?
Sure. So, and I'll even kind of tell the origin story of this.
Yeah.
So on New Year's Day, the morning of New Year's Day, I wrote a song, just some cheesy, it's New Year's Day and there's birds singing and promise of a new year, kind of whatever. It wasn't very good, probably. And later that day, I came across something that I had seen previously, but applied to me a little bit more this year, was Woody Guthrie, and I can't remember the year off the top of my head, 1932 or something. The musician Woody Guthrie, one of my favorite songwriters of all time, had written something called his New Year's Rulin's, which were basically his resolutions. And it was, 50 things he wanted to do that year, and number 8, I think, on that list was write a song a day. I was like, well, I've already got my song today written. I'm on pace for 365. So I kind of thought about it. The next day, wrote another one and decided to sort of publicly announce to my Facebook friends and followers and whatever, hey, I'm doing this. I started a blog and just started writing a song a day. And now I don't know, as of the time of recording this, which I know is coming out a little later, but I think I'm pushing 260 songs that I've written so far this year.
So it was New Year's Day of this year that you decided to start doing that?
Yeah,
okay.
of 2022.
Yep.
Yeah.
And are you just trying to get through 2022, or do you think this will go beyond that?
Yeah, I don't think it'll carry over to next year, not because it hasn't been a great experience, but because I'm going to have this backlog basically of 365 songs.
Right.
Is I need time to go back and see which ones I like, which ones I need to tweak, which ones I want to record and put on proper albums. I already have musician friends that want to, help flesh out some of them. Or it might be, I like this verse in this song, and it could be a bridge in this song. So I think there's going to basically come January, and who knows how long it'll take. So essentially an audit of that, because it's really hard to really assess in the moment how it is, because I'm just kind of plowing through every day, and I get some immediate feedback, from my friends and whatnot, and, it's on YouTube, and so, this one's really good, and there's some that I think are great that nobody seems to like, so,
What's the plan when it's all done? Do you want to do a regular length album, or do you want to... A whole box set of all 365.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of orphans that never make it.
Never see the light of day.
Yeah, because some days, I'm so pressed for time that it's just a short little thing, or there's a couple times I was sick and barely had enough energy to record 15 seconds of this is a song that I have to record today. It's not going to be very long. Yeah, and that'll be one of the things I have to figure out. I mean, I know, hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe I'll have a couple albums worth of stuff, but that's like if 1 in 10 of them are good, right? And I just don't have a feel for, how good they all are. But if 1 in 30 of them are good, I'll have at least one album worth of material that I can put out. But I don't see like releasing the whole thing as a group, other than like it's like a playlist on YouTube, and I've got this blog where they're all collected. But the sound quality of them as I'm recording them isn't great because I'm just shooting video on my phone. So, I don't think the sound quality would be up for, a proper release.
Do they all fall within sort of a genre, or is that also all over the place?
I kind of categorize it all as folk, but maybe just because that's what we just tend to call stuff that's acoustic. But I also have like a keyboard with beats in it and stuff, and it some of it leans towards maybe more R&B or things like that. So, but generally folk. And then, I mentioned I've got all these different instruments. So really depending on what instrument I'm picking up, it has kind of a different sound, which can help me, I think, inspire me a little bit each day. If it's a new instrument in my hands, if I just had to play 365 songs on the same instrument, maybe that limitation would lead to some good innovation and creativity, but it's also kind of nice. Like, I'm going to pick up this thing and it sounds different. And so this kind of feels like I'm singing about outer space or whatever, right?
Okay.
And so, because that's the hardest thing for me is to figure out, well, what am I going to write about today? The music comes quick, but figuring out what the lyrics are going to be about, for the most part, tends to be the difficult thing. So,
go ahead.
Oh, no. Does it change? Does it change how you're creative, knowing that you're going to have to do it every day? Is it sort of more on your mind? Are you processing all the time in a different way, or is it sort of a similar process, just more often?
Well, I guess, honed the process. So there's a couple of there's when I'm actually consciously sitting down to write the song, and that process tends to be the same, especially when I don't know what I'm going to write about. I'll play some music, find kind of a melody, write some lyrics to the melody, and record it. But when I know what I'm going to write about, that helps. Sometimes I'll even write out the lyrics and find something that matches that. But what I realized early on, because I knew I had to write a song a day, is as I was sort of walking through life, I'm like, oh, that might make a song. That might make a song. So a little more than I used to, although I was a songwriter before, it really kind of, those antennae are really up all the time now, and still have a hard time some days. Like, what am I going to write about today? I've already written about this 50 times, it feels like. But but the process is, I've honed it though. It's like a muscle that you exercise, right? So like, even though I'm kind of doing the same process that I've done in the past, I'm noticing that it goes a little bit more smoothly, and I'm not struggling as much once I find that topic of what to write about.
And I understand, lucky for us, you have not written a song today.
That is correct.
And you even have a topic?
Well, I was thinking, I'm on a podcast here, right? And maybe, and that's the thing too, sometimes I was like, I've got to write something like, very serious or important, or, and sometimes that has like what's happening in Ukraine led to some very, heavy songs, right? But there's some days like, I just want to be kind of silly, and I have a feeling maybe this will be a little bit more fun. But I brought an instrument, and because time management is a big part of this writing a song a day, because I have a full-time job. I'm also in a theater production currently, which is essentially another full-time job. So carving out that time, and I was like, oh, well, I'm actually using you all, exploiting your podcast so that I can get my song written.
Two birds, one stone.
Yeah.
All right. So you wanna write something for us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let's see. It'll only take me about 2 hours. How long is this?
What's the instrument?
So I've just got a little concert ukulele here. I'm on bike, so I brought one of my tiny ones. Now, in hindsight, maybe I should have brought one of my weird ones. But so the first thing I do is just kind of bang out some chords. So I kind of don't know. And on this, I'm sort of limited on what chords I can play anyway on a regular ukulele. So it'll probably be some C, G, and D kind of in order. So. So that's kind of a chord progression. And then my next thing is I'll just kind of do gibberish lyrics. I'll kind of just like mumble over the top. And I'm sorry that I'm turning away from the microphone. And I'll just try to see what kind of melody comes out over the top of that. Da dee da dee da dee. So then I've got that melody. I forgot a step that I normally would have done is recorded that melody on my phone, but normally it's over the course of like maybe I'll try to give myself an hour to write the lyrics, so I have a thing to reference. But hopefully it's fresh enough in my mind now that I then have to write the lyrics. So I kind of will count sort of the syllables that I had put in the melody. So I had like da da dee da dee da dee, like 6, and then I kind of do da dee da dee da dee da dee da dee da dee. So I kind of have like 4 lines that will have 6 syllables each, and then I think I close with like dee da dee da dee da dee or something. I don't know, maybe another 6. We'll figure it out. So so then you got to write some words. So this is Indy 15, right? That's the name of the thing. Thanks for having me.
Throw in some words.
Oh, prompts?
Yeah.
Oh, is this a Mad Lib thing?
I'm going to have to give co-writing
We
credit.
need an adverb. This is the Indy 15. Thanks for having me. Was that?
Yeah. Bryan and Helen are here.
Mm-hmm. It's a true story.
Uh-huh. Let's see what rhymes. And we are all in good cheer. Is
Okay.
that fair to say?
Sure, yeah.
That'll work.
I'm pretty cheery.
All in good cheer. We hope you'll read this week. Isn't that kind of the thing to get people to read?
Yeah.
That could be like
could
the
use
big
a
finale.
pitch. Mm.
We hope you'll read this week. See, very, very poetic. The other thing is reading my own handwriting sometimes. And this is my first time ever like writing in front of somebody, which is awkward.
I bet. We write as well. Not
Yeah. Not
But
with
we
somebody
tend not to do
lurking
it.
over
Yeah,
your
with
shoulder,
somebody
right?
watching. And, no, I don't like that.
No.
So now I'm going to record it for posterity on my phone.
Let's hear it.
So I got to set up my camera, and luckily we got this little timer on the table, which will hold it, because I got to post it to my
Look,
YouTube.
A proper holder.
Oh, there we go.
Well, that's
Wow.
that's
Only the best here at the Indy 15.
yes.
Dave has every gadget.
All right.
I've never been in a song before. This
Are you excited?
I am.
Let's see if I'm going to reiterate here. This is Indy 15. Thanks for having me. Bryan and Helen are here. We are all in good cheer. We hope you'll read this. I didn't put the K on week. All right. And this is the tough part, too, because I try to record it right after, and I never have time to, like, really practice it, so it's always a bit raw. But
All
that's
right.
fine. Seeing how the sausage is made. This is Indy 15. Thanks for having me. Bryan and Helen are here. We are all in good cheer. We hope you'll read this week.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right.
That'll be the one that gets me the Grammy.
Yeah, we need to buy that so that we can. That needs to be our theme song, I think. That was great. All right, well, we are, about 15 minutes in. Helen, anything else that you wanted to ask Jeremiah?
I feel like there should be pictures of the unusual instruments in the show notes.
Yeah.
Now that I know what show notes are.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, and I did have another question about unusual. She's not from around here. Do you have any didgeridoos?
I do have a didgeridoo.
Really?
Yes, although I need to put the, you can do beeswax
The wax.
on the.
You have to have the wax.
Yeah, to match,
Yeah.
especially with the beard. I don't have a very
Yeah.
good
To
make a
seal.
good seal, yeah.
Exactly, but my
Yeah.
wife Darla can play it even without the seal, and yeah, it does really.
I have a
does really good.
didgeridoo
Did
Yeah.
you?
with the wax on. Can't play it.
So I think I said it right. How do you say it? Didgeridoo?
Didgeridoo.
I think I said
What
did
did
I
you
say
s- what did you
didgeridoo?
s-
Didgeridoo.
Maybe I said that.
I think you
yeah.
said it right.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did say it right.
They can be hard,
Yeah.
but I can't do circular breathing, so
Okay.
no luck for me.
Yeah.
Well, you can still play some long notes and then
Yeah,
take
some
a breath.
long notes, but not like not real, not give
Like
it
the
the
whole
real
time.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Anything you wanted to plug? I know. How can we follow your progress here for the
Yeah.
next 100 and some days?
Yeah. So all of these songs that I'm writing are on a blog, and I made a short URL. I got a free website, so it normally has a long URL, so I made a tiny URL
Yeah.
to help folks get there. It's tinyurl.com/365 songs, the number 365 songs.
Gotcha.
But you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. All of those, if you just search Jeremiah Walter Music,
Yep.
should be the first thing that pops up, and you can follow my progress there. And then some of the other music that I've released, a couple of solo albums I have, are on jeremiahwalter.bandcamp.com.
Okay. And any shows or anything live if people wanted to check you out?
Nothing coming out, or no live shows soon with my own music, because I'm also involved in theater. So I'm actually
Right.
in a show, Lumberjacks in Love,
Oh, yeah,
at TheaterWorks,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is going through sometime in October. I can't remember when it closes, but I think it will have opened by the time this podcast comes out. So
Okay.
also, and centerforthearts.org maybe is where you get those get those tickets. So
And it's in the calendar in the Indy, too. So if you pick up an Indy, there's some info
Yeah.
about that show in there.
Perfect,
So,
yes.
All right. Well, thank you to Jeremiah Walter and the gang for joining me in the studio. And if you enjoyed this audio version, be sure to check us out on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell so you get notifications anytime something new comes out. This show was produced by Dave Gardner and Nick Raven. Videocast was directed by Nick Raven, distributed by our digital team, which is made up of Sean Cassidy and Michaela Jones. Dustin Glatz is our art director. Amy Gillantine's our publisher. I'm Bryan Grossman, editor-in-chief. Be sure to join us next week for another episode of the Indy 15.